Radio Rental is a popular podcast where people send in spooky stories. I think producer Payne Lindsay initially found a lot of these stories on Reddit. Over 43 episodes of Radio Rental have been released, and here are 7 of the scariest stories. This story is entitled Magnus Volks, and it's from episode 43. I believe that this happened in Brighton, in the south of England. A bus driver witnesses strange things on his bus on one of his shifts. Basically, a bus driver is returning an empty, out of service bus to the depot at night after his shift. He's checked that the bus is empty, no stragglers. But then the bell starts ringing and he can't find out why. Does someone want to get off? Is there someone hiding on the bus? You'll have to listen to find out.
And about 5 minutes after driving, the stop request bell goes. And it's an old bus, it's quite an old analog bell. And I think, shit, I must have left someone upstairs or something. I mean, you have a mirror, you can see the whole lower deck, but upstairs you just have a camera and it's kind of hard to see sometimes if someone's at the back or something.
This is a common spooky tale. I've seen other examples of it. This one is from episode 35, Blessing or Curse, back in America, where the vast majority of these stories take place. This is one of several stories on Radio Rental that reflects anxieties related to homelessness. A woman working at a spa gets an unwanted visit. Was she blessed or cursed? It's basically a woman, she's working at the front desk at reception at a spa when, let's say, a strange man enters and makes her very uncomfortable indeed.
I asked him if I could help him with something. Right as it came out of my mouth, he let out these half scream, screech, guttural sounds that weren't even a language.
Number 5. This is from episode 33, The Essay. A young teacher gives a student a second chance at a writing assignment. What she gets back gives her quite the scare. So this is a young lecturer at a university in an isolated place in America. This is one of her first teaching jobs, so she's already slightly insecure, diffident, and she has this student who's a bit odd, and she has a bit of a strange feeling about them. She gives her class a writing task. This, let's say, odd student returns a paper, but his paper has nothing to do with the task that they were set. She quietly takes him aside and says, maybe you misunderstood the task that you were set. Don't worry about it. I'll give you a second chance. You're going to have to try again. So he tries again, and the paper that he gives her the second time round is basically a very thinly veiled threat on her life.
I look at the title, and the title is How to Get Out of English Class. So I started to read it. The first paragraph began, Step 1, figure out your teacher's schedule. Watch the way she walks. Watch what she's carrying.
Number 4 is from episode 30, Bicycle Bandit. A random guy riding a bicycle in the middle of farmlands always feels ominous. So the setting here, 2 girls, teenagers, cousins I believe. They're having a sleepover. It's summertime. They're outside in the garden late. 11:30 at night. They see a man cycling past. For them this is very strange because they're in a very isolated rural area. It's late and they rarely if ever see cyclists on this road. So this puts them on edge. Anyway, they go to bed. Shortly after they go to sleep, they're rudely awoken with screams and noises. The house has been invaded and one of the other children was attacked. Was it the man that they saw on the bicycle earlier?
It was probably no more than 30 minutes later when we suddenly woke up to the sound of my other sister screaming from the other room. Her screaming in the other room kind of jolted us awake. It was kind of chaos for a few minutes. We didn't really know what was going on.
Number 3. This one is from episode 19, Video Store. Our storyteller has a strange encounter while working at a video store. So a lady is working at a VHS rental store. It's nearly closing time. There's no one in there except for her and the manager. Then a very strange gentleman enters, very tall, wearing a distinctive red suit. He makes his way towards the back. It's a small shop. She can see who's coming in and who's leaving. And the time arrives for the shop to close. And then she looks around and there's no sign of the man in the red suit. And she's thinking, where is he? Is he hiding? What's going on here? She asks her manager, she said, what happened to the guy in the red suit? And he says, what guy in the red suit?
Up front, and I said, hey, Todd, what happened to the man that was here with us? And he said, well, what man? There's not a man here. And I said, no, there was a man in the red suit. He had on a red suit, red shoes, and he kind of looked at me like he was puzzled. He said, no one has even come in the store in about 45 minutes.
Number 2. This one is from episode 3. What was she planning? A man is brought home from the bar by a stranger, but the house isn't empty. 2 guys are out drinking. One of them gets particularly drunk to the point where he's, almost blackout drunk. At that point, an attractive woman appears and comes over and introduces herself. She seems to be interested in the guy who is pretty much blackout drunk. The man's friend thinks, this is a bit strange. And she says, let's keep partying. And she tries to take the inebriated friend home. But his friend, being a responsible mate, says, no, he needs to go home by himself. I'll get him a taxi home. And she says, okay, I'll pay for the taxi, but let's you and me, we should continue. We should keep this night going and we can have a few drinks. He thinks this is very strange, but he says, okay. Eventually they pack the blackout drunk friend in a taxi. He goes home. He's out of the scene. Our friend and the mysterious lady, and they continue on and they go and buy some booze at a liquor store, and she says, let's go to my apartment. He says, right, okay, let's go for it. He says, well, this woman, it seems like she has a fetish for drunk men. I'm going to play up to this. She's insisting that he drinks more, which he finds quite strange, obviously. Eventually they get back to her house. Something just feels a bit off to him, the way she is insisting that he drinks more and more and more. He starts to feel this is a bit weird, and he goes to the bathroom to make himself throw up, sober himself up. Then he hears something from the bathroom, and it seems like there is another person in the house.
When she walked up to me, I noticed like her face was just different. Kind of like looked her up and down, and I'm like, her face is different. But everything's different. What is this, a different girl with the same hair? And then I'm like, no, that's a wig. This is a different girl with the same wig on.
Number 1. This is from the episode entitled 2 of Our Scariest Stories. The story is called Laura of the Woods. A young boy makes a new friend in the woods, but is she who she claims to be? This story is universally acclaimed, and basically everyone says it's the best one, and I totally agree. So there's a boy, and he's about 8 years old, I think. If I remember correctly, he's maybe moved to a new house, and he's exploring, and he finds there are some woods near his new place. When he's playing in the woods one day, he meets this girl who he presumes is around his age, but is she who she claims to be? And I know you might think, I know this one. At the end of the story, we find out she was a ghost. No, it's not. It's not that simple. And no, it's not a case of sleep paralysis. This is a great story, and you should listen to it yourself. I won't ruin it for you.
She had a long sleeve flannel, buttoned real high. It looked very uncomfortable to me. It was like too tight in some spots and too baggy in other spots. And her hair was like a mop top, kind of slobby, like she hadn't combed it. For like a week or two, I kept going out there and hanging out with Laura.